Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and a new edition of our online TV series. Yeah, we want to get an update from Meridian Mining, and Gilbert Clark, the CEO, is here because the company just published fantastic results. So, Gilbert, hi, good to see you. How are you?
Uh, very, very well, and I'm very happy to be talking with you today, Johan.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for taking the time. As I said, you guys reported again fantastic drill results. And of course, I'm very happy because as a shareholder, I am a shareholder of the company. I really like to see that, and especially like 5.5 meters with 9 grams gold equivalent or 6% copper equivalent, and only in the 60 meters depth. That is fantastic, isn't it? And that's from a Santa Helena deposit. So please give us some insights into that.
Well, Saint Helena is actually our second resource development program on the Cabaçal copper gold belt in Brazil. It's at the moment it's about 1,100 meters of what we call massive sulfides. That's sort of continuous mineralization, very high
Mhm.
grade. It's a 30% gold, 30% copper, 30% zinc, 10% silver deposit. And the deposit actually starts at surface and it goes down to about 90 meters. And it's an open pit, so that means we mine it through conventional truck and shovel. But this is a satellite deposit to our main deposit, which is the Cabaçal, and we reported on that some 2 weeks ago.
Okay, super. Yeah, so also I saw that you guys want to then bring out a resource estimate or again in Q4. So will this hole also, or will those holes also be counted in, or when is the cut?
No, these results will go into the resource. What's interesting on the
Mhm.
resource is that we have probably about 12, 13,000 meters now of combined historical drilling, two phases of historical drilling. It was partially mined. So we'll
Mhm.
combine all that into a resource estimation. And sort of rule of thumb, it's about 10% of the tonnage of Cabaçal, but about three times the grade. But it will be feeding into our central hub at the Cabaçal mine.
Okay, super. Also, what I saw is, which I found really interesting, that you have open targets to test for potential of massive sulfide extensions, defined by a Mise à la masse new BHEM tool. What is that?
Oh, well, measles and mumps is actually a very old technique, but it works very,
Uh-huh.
very well. It predates us. Okay, it goes back way past our age group. It's a tool to map underground. So you can't actually when you've got a massive sulfide and like we have at St. Helena, it doesn't come to the surface in fresh rock. We can see alteration gosons. And what measles and mass does, it can measure and map. Um, the results can be mapped to of
Mhm.
resistivity to show where the sulfides are moving to. And then we've combined that with what we call borehole EM. So when we drill a hole down into the deposit, we take out the carrot and we assay that for the metal. What we then do is we lower down a Pacific probe that we've bought uh, that tests for very low conductivity. When I say low conductivity, all deposits have a geophysical response, and massive sulfides have a
Mhm.
particular result from electromagnetics. But our deposit in Cabaçal has very unusually, but in a positive way, low conductivity. So by using borehole EM, combining that with mesolar mass and also things like IP survey and gravity survey, we've defined a
Mhm.
suite of, because it's Cabaçal's a known deposit, we know the dimensions. So we can identify the characteristics, the geophysical characteristics, and then use that characteristics for the over 50 kilometers of exploration tenements that we have. So it's going to be, okay, the proof in the pudding. Here's a deposit, a known massive sulfite that's got no real surface expression, and we can use that to explore the rest of the belt in a low risk type of procedural exploration.
Mhm. So that also works then to discover those blind massive sulfides, because otherwise it would be tricky to get them.
Yeah. Um, it's not. I can remember many years ago. I can't remember. I read the text when they found the deposit of flin flon in Canada, and basically they kicked a rock and saw the massive sulfides. Be lovely to have that
Mhm.
in Cabaçal, but we don't. We've got 10, 15 meters of coverage before we get to crystalline rock. So this is a tool that we can then use. We have many prospects. We have a lot of soil anomalies, geophysical anomalies, and now we can refine our geophysics to target those subsurface potential discoveries along the belt.
Okay, super. So, what would be then the next step for you? Let's say until Christmas, you want to bring out that resource estimate, obviously, again. I think drilling is now finished for that, right? Maybe you have still some holes open, which you can report.
No, I think we're just about ready to send the database off to the
Hmm.
independent QP to actually go through and do the estimation for us. At the same time, we're advancing the main deposit, which is Cabaçal. That will
Hmm.
go to pre-feasibility report in Q1 of next year. So it's Santa Helena is so interesting for our shareholders and interested parties is that it won't have to carry the capital expense of building a processing plant because at the main
Hmm.
deposit, Cabaçal, that's all paid off in a very short period. And now what we can do,
Hmm.
any subsequent discoveries, they just feed into this hub, which is the Cabaçal hub. And this is typical of all VMS belts. This is a belt that have been brought in production over the last 100 years.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about some economics because I found that that's one of the reasons why I'm a shareholder, to be honest, because you brought out that PEA in 2023 and the capex is 180 million. Let's call it today, maybe, or until you will launch that, it's 200. But also, I mean, $671 AISC for gold equivalent, that's also extremely low. And if I look at the payback is 10.6 months. But what I found really interesting is that you have calculated that I think at $1,650 gold, right?
Yeah,
And
look,
then copper was $3 40 or $3.50. I mean, if we look now at today's prices, that is, yeah, it's a no-brainer to me, isn't it?
absolutely. And what we've been a very conservative company. We've got a very experienced board, which is sort of somewhat untypical of a junior company. So we use when we did the PEA, we used the banking consensus, not our consensus, the banking consensus,
Mhm.
and that was 359 for copper and 1650 for gold. Now at the time, I think we went up to 1950 gold and maybe $5 copper, and that gave us like a 780 MPV post tax. But look, if we were to plug
Mhm.
in today's numbers, the spot price for today, it'd just be an astronomical amount. But the all-in sustaining cost that you touched on, what you have to understand, we're in Brazil, and I have a Brazilian operational team, very experienced miners. So we're using
Mhm.
Brazilian costs. And these have been benchmarked against all the recent builds in Brazil, and they come in right in the middle of the fairway, and that's so important. But open pit
Mhm.
mining is always the lowest cost mining. We don't have to
Mhm.
do our upside along the belt. It's not 1,000 meters below the deposit. It's 1,000 meters along from the deposits. So this is the difference
Mhm.
that we have. And then our capex is low, principally because of the metallurgy. And I've talked about this many, many times over the last 2, 3 years. If you don't have good metallurgy, you don't have good cash flow, you don't have good ASIC, you don't have good MPV
Mhm.
IRR. And we have really now benchmarked metallurgical recoveries for volcanic massive
Mhm.
sulfides. They're so high. And it's not us promoting a theory because both of these
Mhm.
deposits, Cabaçal and St. Helena, have been in production. And so we just took
Mhm.
their flow sheets, replicated them in the laboratory, the bench scale, and it's worked. So we're very, very happy on how our overall development of the project has gone, particularly with these high grade results. Well, I should say continual high grade results from St. Helena.
Okay. So how many more ounces, or let's say how many more tons or pounds of copper you want to define until you can say, okay, guys, that's enough. Let's really move the needle here to really get that thing constructed.
Well, we've got an exploration target between 350 to 760,000 ounces of gold equivalent. Now, with Cabaçal, that pushes us over 2 million ounces of gold equivalent. And in the PFS, we're actually increasing the throughput up from 2.5 to 4 million tons, 4.5 million tons. So, we already really have the next 20 years of mineralization ready to mine and defined in these two deposits. So we're now going through the PFS, get that out Q1 next year, end of Q3
When,
next
when, when next year?
in
When
January.
next year you want?
We should have it out by late January to early February next year. More late January, I
For
think.
the PFS already.
For the
Wow.
PFS, yes, for Cabaçal. And then in
Hmm.
Q3, we've already telegraphed to the market, by Q3, we hope to have the feasibility study published, going straight onto it. Joachim, this
Wow.
is not a greenfields discovery. This is a brownfields
Hmm.
restart that was
Exactly.
shut
Yeah.
down for a corporate reason by Rio Tinto in 1991. So if you can imagine a producing field that just got shut down because it was too small for Rio Tinto at the time, mind you, at
Mhm.
the time, copper was at 80 cents a pound and gold was at $2.20. Um, so yeah, look, we're really it's about managing expectations, uh, ensuring that we get growth for our equities, managing future dilution because we don't have cash flow, but really it's about
Mhm.
bringing into production the next copper gold VMS belt internationally, not just for Brazil.
Mhm. Okay, super. So that means by the end, let's call it the end of next year, you will definitely have a probably, yeah, production decision, meaning a project finance, and then you can really start to build that thing in 2026 latest.
Absolutely, absolutely. We initiated discussion with the project finance banks at the early 2023, not because, oh, look, give us a check. It's to bring it onto the bank's horizon. And really, when we do our feasibility study next year, it's really to address all of the concerns of the credit committee of the project finance banks. And it's a
Mhm.
more mature way of going about it. We prepare now so we have success next year for what we ultimately want to do, which is bring this very prospective and profitable copper gold belt
Mhm.
back into production.
Mhm. Okay. As you said, you want to rise from 2.5 million tons per annum to probably 4 to 4.5 million tons per
Yeah.
annum. What would that mean approximately for the capex? I know it's way too early to say, but would that mean that the capex is, let's say, more like $400 million?
No, no, no. Because what we are doing is we will start at 2.5 million tons for about the first 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, pay it off,
Hmm.
then we can do the expansion uh,
Ah.
out of net free cash flow. You refinance through working facility or a debt facility. We have
Hmm.
optimized on trade-off studies to how to minimize that. So we'll probably have at the
Hmm.
front end the crushing grinding circuit enlarged to have the capacity to do 4.5 million tons. And most importantly
Hmm.
for Brazil, and I think this is a rollout across the world, we already decided back in 2022 that we're going to do dry stack tailings. So we have to have the filters at the back end of these things. So it's a very sustainable rollout of a mining. We're not going to try and build this and rush it and then close it. We want this to be a sustainable with resource uh, growth and replacement for decades to come. And that is absolutely typical for a volcanic massive sulfide belt.
Okay, super. Well, that sounds like a plan. One of the reasons why I'm a shareholder. And I would say we talk then quite soon when you bring out your latest resource estimate. And I think then we have time again to do something here. That's fantastic. Super. Thank you very much for today for the update. And I would say you are on a wonderful path.
Thank you very much. We're looking forward to talking about more success in the months to come.
That's how we do it. Super. Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Gilbert Clark, the CEO of Meridian Mining. And you heard it again, fantastic drill results. This is, yeah, a really gold rich, copper rich project, also attached with several other metals. And I must say, this looks really, really great. It is in Brazil. And yeah, the location is great, infrastructure is great. jurisdiction is great, and I think the company is really on a high speed path to production here. You heard it. Resource estimate is coming out within the next 8 to 10 weeks, and then also for next year already January, February, the pre-feasibility study. Then we have really a great idea of the numbers, and the project will be enlarged also, and then probably already by the third or fourth quarter next year already a feasibility, and then we know project finance, and then this goes really rapidly. And please don't forget, gold is at all-time high. Copper is over $4.40, so that really looks all fantastic. Those are the projects this world needs. You really should have a look at Meridian Mining. Thanks for watching us, and bye-bye from Switzerland.